You see the page now? You follow me. In this particular one invocation is not there, so I will repeat it. What we did, Nityam Shuddham. But let's just start.
Thank you.
Sahana Bhavatu
सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनाधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते.
Nityam. You remember that?
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम् नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्.
Excellent.
This I would like to follow after you.
Okay. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna
साधन चतुष्टय संपन्ना
Adhikarinam
अधिकारिणा
मोक्ष साधन भूतम
मोक्ष साधन भूतम
तत्व विवेक प्रकारम
तत्व विवेक प्रकारम
वक्ष्यामः
वक्ष्यामः.
साधन चतुष्टयं किम्
साधन चतुष्टयं किम्
नित्यानित्य वस्तु विवेकः
नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकः
इहामुत्रार्थ फल भोग विरागः
इहामुत्रार्थ फल भोग विरागः
समाधि षट्क संपत्तिः
समाधि षटक संपत्तिः
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
नित्यानित्य वस्तु विवेकः कः
नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकः कः
नित्यवस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
नित्यवस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वं नित्यम्
अयमेव
अयमेव
नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकः
नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकः
विरागः कः
विरागः कः
इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम्
इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम्
समाधिसाधनसम्पत्तिः का
समाधिसाधनसम्पत्तिः का
शमोदम उपरमस्तितीक्षा श्रद्धा समाधानं चेति
शमोदम उपरमस्तितीक्षा श्रद्धा समाधानं चेति
समः कः
शमः कः
मनोनिग्रहः
मनोनिग्रहः
दमः कः
दमः कः
चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रियनिग्रहः
चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रियनिग्रहः
उपरमः कः
उपरमः कः
स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव
स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव
तितीक्षा का
तितीक्षा का
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखादिसहिष्णुत्वम्
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखातिसहिष्णुत्वम्
श्रद्धा कीदृशी
श्रद्धा कीदृशी
गुरुवेदान्तवाक्यादिषु विश्वासः
गुरुवेदान्तवाक्यादिषु विश्वासः
श्रद्धा
श्रद्धा
समाधानं किम्
समाधानं किम्
चित्तैकाग्रता
चित्तैकाग्रता
मुमुक्षुत्वं किम्
मुमुक्षुत्वं किम्
मोक्षो मे भूयाद् इति इच्छा
मोक्षो मे भूयात् इति इच्छा
एतत् साधनचतुष्टयम्
एतत् साधनचतुष्टयम्
ततस्तत्त्वविवेकाधिकारिणो भवन्ति
ततस्तत्त्वविवेकाधिकारिणो भवन्ति.
So we saw up to here already. Obviously, etat sadhana chatushtayam, up to here is the sadhana chatushtayam. Tataha, here afterwards, part 2 onwards, tattva viveka. Those who are the adhikari, fit, will become fit. Bhavanti, are, is fit for tattva viveka. And thank you, Akanksha, very well chanted. So now we move on to what we started yesterday. Tattva vivekaha kaha. What is tattva vivek? The first question, now that the topic has started. We said yesterday, he gives the answer here, Atma Satyam. It should be Satyam. This is a typing error, not Satyaha. Satyam tad anyat sarvam Mithya iti. Mithyeti is a sandhi, so it is Mithya iti. Atma Satyam tat anyat sarvam Mithya iti. This is called Tattva Vivek. Now, Atma, we said yesterday, is the first point of clarity. What is Atma? He says, to understand Atma, he himself is going to give definition later on, but that will be in the form of a Vivek. Before we come to Vivek, we need to be very clear about what is the word Atma conveying to us. In very simple English translation, you can say, when we use word I, in Sanskrit it's aham, in Hindi you say main, in Gujarati you'll say hu, I don't know in which other regional language, every other language you will have a point of saying main hu, I am. Atma is, say, the Sanskrit term for this subjective reference. The subjective point of contact, the subjective reference is called Atma. This should get fixed inside, because if you understand this word in the beginning, the rest of Vedanta will become much easy to discern and follow and abide later, because there is no confusion with reference to Atma kise kaha hai. Tattva Vivek is going to be the discernment between Atma, what is Atma, and what is not Atma. But where am I to understand Atma? Is it something outside of me that it's referring to? What about me is pointed as Atma? So just for tagging, you say the subjective subject in the experience, the subject of any experience, the perceiver of an experience, the actual cognizer of an experience the enjoyer of an experience, is Atma. Then came the word Satyam. What is Satyam? And the third word, what is Mithya? Now, to understand this, I am going to show you this. What is this? What do you see?
Flowers. Pink flowers.
Pink flowers. Okay. What do you see?
Pink flowers again, but another shade of pink.
Okay. Pink flowers again. Another type of flower. Okay. Now, in both of them, you say they are flowers. I'm doing this.
They don't have a smell.
They don't have a smell. So what would you understand these are?
Plastic flowers.
Plastic flowers. Artificial flowers. Okay. These are artificial flowers. What is this?
Real flower.
That's the word I was looking for. Real flowers. If they are real flowers, what is this?
Not real.
Unreal.
Not real.
Fake.
Fake is right. Okay. Not real. Your
Mithya.
immediate and artificial. Unreal. How do you say these are unreal flowers?
There's no smell.
There is no smell. That means you are seeing flowers. Flowers are there, but they are not real. Because you call the other ones real. What is real? The fact that you see this, can you deny that there is something like an object here? है ना? कुछ तो है. You can't say the flowers are not there. But you cannot call them real flowers because there is something else called the real flower. The flower which I can smell, which is supposed to smell like a flower. The flower that I can touch and feel, which is supposed to be feeling like a flower. The flower that I can pluck and will wither away, that is supposed to wither away like a flower is supposed to. All these attributes are not there in this right hand side of my flower pot here. And the other one is a big one, so it's down there. It's called the left hand side flower pot. The real flower, the artificial flower. On the right artificial, on the left real. Now, idea of Satyam. The translation of Satyam is, what is abadhyam in all times, under all circumstances. The translation of it comes as real. When you say this is a real flower, the minute you say, or let's take this is not real flowers. These are not real flowers. And I say, you're lying. झूठ बोल रहे हो आप. How do you say these are not real flowers? And you say, if अगर हिंदी सत्य बोल रहे हैं हम, I'm speaking the truth. These are real flowers. I mean, these are not real flowers. Now, your idea of Satyam is so closely mixed up with real. What is true? What is truth? That idea of truth is a very entwined meaning. Truth matlab wo रियल है. रियल का मतलब है, इफ यू से रियल, then that means वो होना चाहिए ना. It should be there. That should be there, होना चाहिए, is another word of saying existence. It exists. Means real and exists both seem to be conveying to me what is Satyam. When I say I am seeing my left hand side real flowers, सत्य है कि ये real है. सत्य है कि ये real नहीं है. एक सत्य है कि ये real है और एक सत्य है कि ये real नहीं है. मगर इन दोनों में what is अबाधित, जिसका negate नहीं हो पा रहा, कि कुछ है. दोनों में है जो है वो negate नहीं हुआ. What got negated was real, artificial. I can smell, I can't smell. I can see is both. I can feel is both. I can smell one, I can't smell the other. I can pluck one, I guess I can pluck the other, but it will be difficult. It won't matter. One will wither. I value the artificial because it will not wither. I have it only because it will not wither. Now this idea of Satya, that I am so closely associating actually only with reality. क्या real है? This has immediate identification with क्या है. क्या real है में real and है. क्या real है में real and है. दोनों में तदात्म्यतम है, means they come together. क्या है and क्या real है. They are both coming together. When I say what is seen, felt as a real perception of the world, this is real. When I say this is real, I mean it exists. So far, so good. Now, in Shastra, there is another term. Term is तुच्छ्यम. हिंदी में उसको कहो तुच्छ. Sanskrit is तुच्छ्यम. I tell you, okay, this much we are clear. My left side is real flowers, my right side is unreal flowers, means artificial flowers. Now I tell you, these are my horns. My horns. Actually, horns don't move, sorry. These are my horns. These are my horns. Real?
No.
Unreal? Artificial?
No, but
They're not there.
yeah.
They don't exist. I'm trying to create something जो है ही नहीं वहां पे. Thankfully. I don't have horns on my head, sadly or thankfully. What is not there is not existent. Cannot either be called real or unreal because it doesn't have existence. What doesn't have existence is called tuchyam. in the dictionary meaning of tuch is something you disregard. कोई मतलब नहीं है उसका, मतलब उन ना कुछ लोगों की बातों को हम कहते हैं ना कितनी तुच्छ बातें कर रहे हैं. It's like their conversation has absolute no significance and no meaning. So I may go write a poetry on the horns on my head. I will write a poem and the book will be published in my poetry book. What? My horns on my head. Who will believe me as it being truth? Everyone knows it's imagination because horns on human beings' heads are not there. Technical term for it, Shastra gives us the example, Shasha Shringavat. Shasha is rabbit. Shasha Shringavat. Vat means like. Like the horns on a rabbit. They have no existence. What truly doesn't have real existence? Horns on a rabbit doesn't have real existence. It's tuchyam. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? What is it?
Muffler?
Muffler. A muffler. Call it a sweater or muffler. Real?
Yeah.
Real. Yep, real. Now, I don't want to, but suppose I start udhedoing it. If I start to udhedo it, what will happen to this muffler?
It'll become wool.
It'll become wool. Muffler, you said, is real. But I udhedoed it. What is the English of udhedna? Because I have used a very different word. Udhedoed it. Udhedoed it.
Ripping?
Anyway, huh?
Ripping?
What?
Ripping?
Ripping. Close. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm ripping the muffler apart, I guess. Yeah. I'm ripping it away. No, yeah, udhedoed is fine. I'm udhedoing it. Now, where is the muffler?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. But when you are seeing the muffler, was it actually a muffler, or at that time also it was actually just the wool?
Was wool in a different form.
Was wool in a form? In a different form is a sweater. Here in this form, it's a muffler. I am seeing the muffler as real because when I asked you, is this real? All of you said, yes, it's real. That means this is a real muffler. I can touch it. I can contact it. It gives me warmth when I want it. I use it. But while it is a muffler, it has always been non-separate from its yarn. Wool here. It was always wool. So now we need a third word of something that is there, real, is also existent, but actually doesn't have its own independent existence. It doesn't exist on its own. Muffler hai hi nahi. There's nothing called muffler. It's only wool. Now there has to be a third word, which only our Shastra language has got a word for. English, kahin pe ye shabd nahi milega aapko. That third word for a thing which exists, looks real, but does not exist on its own independently of something else on which it is dependent for its existence. This third word is called Mithya. क्या है? thing I can see as real, I know it exists because it is real. That's why I call it real, क्योंकि वो है. उसका होने में मुझे कोई डाउट नहीं है, उसकी रियलिटी पे मुझे कोई शक नहीं है. मगर जो मुझे ये दिख रहा है वो अपने आप में वो नहीं है, अदर देन व्हाट इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन फॉर इट्स एग्जिस्टेंस. उसके होने में इट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन समथिंग. मफलर का मफलर होने में इट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन द वूल. इफ वूल इज नॉट देयर, मफलर नहीं है. So for me to say it is muffler is real and existent, I'm not wrong. But for me to say it is Satyam, is that correct? Is it abadit? Will it exist in all periods of time? Will it exist in all conditions? So it is not Satyam. So if it is not Satyam, I need another word. That is called Mithya. That is called Mithya. जो है, perceivable है, contactable है, experienceable है, usable है. It has a utility. But it is dependent on something else for its satta, for its existence. It has not an independent existence. ये अपने आप से कहीं से आ ही नहीं सकता, बिना भूल के हो ही नहीं सकता, बिना यान के हो नहीं सकता. Therefore, now what are three things we have? We have Satyam, we have Tuchyam, we have Mithya. Take another example, just for its own sake. It's a repetition, but to confirm it. What is this?
Plant.
Plant. What is this?
Plant.
What are they both?
Plant.
Satyam?
Yeah.
Hena, now you have entered Vedanta. I'm so happy. Because you cannot really say that this is Satyam. You know this is real, this is artificial. But both of them have a badha, no? Both are negatable. ये भी negatable है, artificial है, ये भी negatable है, दोनों ही negatable है. Therefore, both of them don't seem to be Satyam. So what am I calling as real? Is an attribute. They're different in attributes. Is definitely going to wither away if it's not watered. The other will wither away in weather if I leave it out. It'll wither away in time, but it'll wither away. This Satyam, Mithya, both you cannot say don't exist, therefore they exist, therefore Tuchyam to hai hi nahi. Hai to sahi. Now the question is the wool, I'm coming back to the muffler. Okay, muffler I have said is Mithya because it's dependent on the wool. Is wool Satyam?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What is wool dependent on?
Sheep.
The only question you can ask is it independently existing or dependently existing?
Dependent.
Depends on the sheep, right? The wool depends on the sheep. Yes.
हाँ, right. It depends on the sheep. तो wool
The
बिना
sheep,
sheep के तो आएगा नहीं ना?
and sheep is also not negatable, so right?
Perfect. Excellent. Sheep is also not negatable. Then what is sheep dependent on for it to be sheep?
Atma.
Seedha.
Wool.
How? Food. Somebody said food, or did I hear it? Did I hear my own voice? Wool. Sheep is dependent on the wool. How can sheep be dependent on the wool? Sheep produces
Dependent,
the
but
wool.
yeah.
Wool
I
is
mean, food.
food
Food
is I gave the answer away. Now, sheep is dependent on the food. If she eats the food, then her body produces, the sheep produces wool. And wool then becomes yarn for us. And that yarn we further convert it into a muffler, sweater. The sheep is dependent on the food. The sheep becomes
Mithya. Mithya, right?
excellent. Right, absolutely. So sheep is, because it doesn't have an independent existence other than the food that she consumes.
Yes.
Is food now Satyam?
No,
No,
food is
food is
also
also
Mithya.
dependent.
Food is also Mithya because food is also dependent on plants, animals, etc.
Yeah, it needs its own
The whole
whatever.
cycle? Five.
Yes.
You will see this in Tattva Bodha now in great details. The 5 elements, they have a cyclical coexistence, cohabitation. The food is dependent upon the water. If there is no water, no rain, no food. It is dependent on the soil. If there is no water, there is no food. Soil can be there, but if there is no water, there will be no food. So it is dependent on water.
Yes.
So that means food is mithya.
Yes.
Is water satyam?
Depends on temperature.
No.
I think water is a
Depends upon temperature. Depends upon fire. Depends upon heat. If there is no heat, if there are no summers, the oceans do not evaporate. The oceans don't evaporate. The water doesn't rise. The water doesn't rise, then it doesn't become clouds. If the water doesn't become clouds, then it doesn't become rain again. And if the rain doesn't come, then we don't have food. But if the rain comes and the food comes and the food is eaten by the sheep and the sheep then has wool and then man makes it into a yarn and then I make it into a sweater. So now heat has become Satyam. Everything else has become
Mithya.
dependent. Mithya. Now is heat Satyam?
No, it depends on the sun.
It depends on the sun. Correct, fine, doesn't matter. It depends on the sun. Sun is heat only. So is sun Satyam?
Because the sun will also die one day.
Sun will die one day, but now what are we talking about? So that means it's not Satyam, but then what is Satyam? Sun is independent? No. What is sun dependent on?
Conditions in
For its
space.
existence. Excellent. Space. Sun exists in space. So if space is there, sun is there. If sun is there, heat is there. If heat is there, then water is there. If water is there, then rains are there. If rains are there, then food is there. If food is there, now go on. Correct? So space is Satyam. Very good. Excellent. Finally, space is Satyam. Is it? Is space Satyam?
But that will also wither away.
So that will also, whatever.
For the big
But what is it
things.
dependent on? What is
Whatever.
space dependent on?
Whatever is in
Huh?
the space. Whatever is in
This is dependent on what brought about the space to come in the first place, because space was not always there. Before the Big Bang, there was no space. So there must have been some moment of
Oh,
creation when space
the
came
Big
about.
Bang came. The Big Bang came at a point. So that means there was no existence before that,
No, the existence was
according to
there.
science.
Yeah, space must have
According
been
to science. But here is where now you start the subjective inquiry. Vedanta now begins. What is space dependent on? Is it going to be something, another factor which is more pervasive than space, on which space is dependent, which will again be external? If that is so, then there'll be another factor outside of it, which will again be more pervasive of space and dependent on. This is anavastha. Anavastha means there is a logical fallacy. Regress ad infinitum. You can go on up to the point of infinity. You will not find what was the very point of existence. From where has the existence got lent? Which is the independent existence? Which is that independent existence which has no dependency for its existence? There's something like that is where the query starts. Do we have something which is independent existence, which is not dependent on anything else? And that is Tattva Vivek. That something the author said here is, if you remember the definition, Satyam, Anyat, Sarvam, Mithya, iti. What is that independent existence which lends existence to everything? Vedanta says it is Atma. And what is Atma? Now you know, to some degree. Subjective experiencer. I say the spaces, and space is in galaxies, galaxies are in more galaxies, and more galaxies are in more galaxies, and more galaxies and more galaxies and more galaxies and more galaxies. It can go on infinity. I don't know where to end. Now my mind, intellect doesn't just reach that point, so I give it up. But there are many, 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 many more, and there are many parallel universes that we have, and life must be existing on parallel universe. There must be, you see, another such exposure of this class simultaneously going on in another universe. You and I are listening to it. There are theories that like that. There is another parallel universe where we are existing like this, and the same thing is happening over there. I don't know why we need two universes for it, but doesn't matter. That's the theory that is also there prevalent in the society, to say there is a parallel universe where we all have our counterparts over there which are living also along with it, etc., etc., etc. Now, the whole idea is what? What is the point of that knowledge? What do I gain out of it? Third is where the leap in intellectual maturity happens, which Vedanta gives to us. That when I want to know what is it that independently exists, first it must be my jignasa. अगर मुझे कोई जिज्ञासा ही नहीं है तो मुझे जो जवाब दे दोगे मैं I'll gulp it down and start my japa on it. Atma is Satyam, Atma is Satyam, Atma is Satyam. Everything else is Mithya, everything else is Mithya, everything else is Mithya. बाहर बहुत गर्मी हो रही है, everything is Mithya, Mithya. गर्मी मिथ्या है, गर्मी मिथ्या है, गर्मी मिथ्या है, गर्मी मिथ्या है, गर्मी मिथ्या है. सर्दी मिथ्या है, सर्दी मिथ्या है. मुझे सर्दी नहीं. अरे तुम्हें लग रही है और तुम कह रहे हो सर्दी मिथ्या है. मिथ्या है is correct. But have you figured out Satya क्या है? What is Satyam? What is that which exists independent? That existence, independent, not only independently existing, it is called Swatah Siddham. It is independently existing. it is also lending existence, just as we saw start from sheep. Sheep lent its existence to wool. Wool lent its existence to the muffler. Muffler lent its existence to me to get the warmth as a person, as a body. But to all of this cycle, if I were to draw, who lent the existence to all of it? Who said the sheep is there? I can use it. This is the method. Aham. I was there. Me to say sheep is there, sheep is not an independent reality. I am the independent reality who has seen the whole world, experiencing the whole world. I am the one who is Swataha Siddham. I as in Atma. That Atma which is Swataha Siddham. Satyam Eva. The author says, this alone is Satyam. Everything else, everything. Now you know what everything can include. What can everything include? Everything. Answer for everything can include will only be everything.
Everything.
If one cycle we have picked up, one cycle, minute, which is just about at the point of, say, the warmth of the wool. One cycle does not exist independent of me. No cycle exists independent of me. And that me word, keep it in your framework, because this me is what is going to be unfolded in Vedanta. What is the real me? The clarity of it. So what is Tattva ka Vivek karna? Essence. Tattva, we said before, is the essence. What is the essence? What is the essence of the whole creation? He says the essence of whole creation is Atma. ही सत्य है. तो सत्य is real. वही real है. So then again question comes, क्या ये सब unreal है? And this is where most of the people in Vedanta fall off. They think they are great. सबको समझ में आ रहा है सब कुछ, लेकिन एक छोटी सी बात मिस हो जाती है, क्योंकि the minute I say real, our intellect only takes the opposites into picture. Heat है तो cold है तो heat है, honor है तो dishonor है, etc. So शीतोष्ण सुख दुखादि सहिष्णुत्वम, bearing the pairs of opposites because we perceive the opposites. So if this is real, then everything else is unreal. Immediately we jump to such a conclusion, innocently, ignorantly. That means Vedanta is saying the world is unreal. Because many people have translated Mithya as unreal, because there is no word translation for Mithya. So the world is Mithya. Sarvam Mithya. Ekam Satya. Atma is that Satyam. Everything else is Mithya. And this called Tattva Vivek. What are the, I'm just revising it. Satyam word, now concluding it, only conveys, actually very subtly, suggestively conveys two things to us. In our mind, our ideas are that वो real है and that वो existent है. Example, flower. We then use real as a quality. Real flower, not real flower. So real becomes a quality of the flower. My mind is actually talking real as existence. Hey. It was common to both real and unreal flowers. So actually what Satyam is saying is, it is purely how you understand an object. It is there and you see it as real, means my point is that it is hai. And then if I make real a quality of that hai, hona, existence, then that only means I'm equating it to its own attributes, what it's supposed to have. If it doesn't have them, then I call it unreal. But unreal has actually another term, जो हो ही नहीं सकता है, जो है ही नहीं. Sixth element. There are 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. Is there a 6th element? Just as I don't have horns on my head, am I made up of a 6th element? How we can discover, the chemistry, you have that chart. What is that chart called?
Periodic table?
Elements.
Periodic
table. Periodic table. Excellent. Periodic table has also modified itself by discovering the new chemical. But can you discover a totally different element which had no existence before, which doesn't have existence? If it has an existence, you can discover. Because now I'm completing it. Why can you discover it? Because you are existent. But what is not there at all, I can't say it can have any reality. Even if I'm there, it doesn't have a reality. So Shastra Vidya, Vedanta Vidya, doesn't consider Tuchyam as any point of knowledge. There is not talking about something which jo hai hi nahi. So can I say the world is unreal? No. The world is there. But can I call it real? Is it abadit? No. It has badha. Constant negatability. If it has constant negatability, then that becomes only mithya. So the world is mithya, Atma is Satyam. This must be clinched absolutely. Atma Satyam. Sarvam mithya iti means the entire jagat is mithya. You call as many universes as possible. Multiple universes existing, mithya. This example, of course, we took. What is the whole point of knowing mithya? To affirm what is Satyam, because mithya means basically it is something that can turn out to be not true at another point of time, but it is there in another form. And if I don't know it, so finally, supposing I say I don't understand the world as mithya, then what happens? The biggest error that everyone has by default got it in their thinking is that if I do not do the vivek of satya and mithya, and tuchyam mein kya hai nahi hai, unreal hai bhi ki nahi hai, then I call mithya as satyam. Because if you do not know that these are artificial flowers, what do you expect from them? To be? You see the flowers, no?
Smell.
You expect smell. Excellent.
Yeah.
You expect it will have smell. And so I see it in a shop and I say, Arey, bahut sundar hai, let me go get it. I'll get some enjoyable experience of it, very nice. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm very greatly disappointed. I'm worried. I'm anxious. Why is this flower not having a smell? I got it. I'm such a stupid person. I'm such an idiot that I actually thought they were real flowers. How did I not even know that there could be something like not real flowers? And now they are not, they're just there. I don't know why I got. What has happened when you did not see Mithya as Mithya? You saw it as Satyam. And seeing it so, जो मिथ्या है, उसको सत्य मानना is the root cause of all forms, all degrees, all types ever there of suffering. There is only one cause, root cause of suffering, of any kind of suffering. Not to recognize Satyam correctly. So the world has to be understood in three categories, not in two. Real or unreal nahi. Real, tuchyam, mithya. Tuchyam is not important because it is not there, it cannot give me an experience. But what is there and is actually not Satyam, and I impose Satyam on it because I think it is there, I see it is there, how can it not, I'm seeing the world, how can I say it is not there? Then the minute I see it as real, I have a whole lot of things that I want from it, expect from it. Everything starts. When that starts, then the whole, what they call as samsara starts. The root cause of suffering is not having Tattva Vivek. Remember, in Adhikaratvam, Vivek Shakti, I emphasized a lot on who becomes an Adhikari, who has a Viveka Shakti. That Viveka Shakti goes to examine what is real and what is not, what is Satyam, what is Mithya. And this example is one thread example, one example, clarifying to us how it returns back. And it's actually one of the Upanishads ka pura prakarnam is this. What is it? It comes in Taittiriya also. So what is it really that it talks of? It just simply says, Shastra says, if you have Viveka Shakti, employ it to know Satyam kya hai. And Shastra Vidya points to us towards that. Atma is the only Satyam. Shastra is a praman for it. Atma is the Satyam, but I have to discover it. And it is only in my understanding that I see it as Satyam and Mithya. Because truly speaking, I am using a muffler. But while I use a muffler, I know it is Mithya. Iska Satya, iska wool hai. I have a value for the wool. So if I find another muffler with a wool, I will still have something else, etc., etc. But then, so all my correction of wherever I have placed this exaggerated sense of reality to the world and things and people and beings and everything, Shastra says make a correction through Vivek. Else, the minute you call Satyam, the Mithya as Satyam, there is some suffering that comes with it. It brings suffering. Not seeing things as they are is the suffering. If you take the definition now that Shankara in this Shankara author said, Tattva Viveka Kaha, he said, Atma Satyam, Tat Anyat Sarvam Mithya iti. Atma alone is real. Other than that, everything is mithya. This is just a translation. But what is the conclusion of understanding from here? What you see means what you are able to contact, perceive, the world is mithya. Correct. But that mithya cannot exist unless and until it has an underlying satya. I think my internet went. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Ma'am, the last line, can you repeat?
Yeah.
Which was the last line that you heard?
Satyam cannot exist. Underlying, like the world cannot exist. There is an underlying something of that sort.
Let me see if I
You said Mithya will not be there if the underlying Satyam is not there and then you got cut off.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what you see, contact, everything is actually mithya, but it has an underlying satyam which gives it the satta. There is an underlying satyam, the substratum, the adhar. You can use many words in different Upanishads. There will be different words, but they convey the same thing. That underlying satyam, here he says, you have to understand it as Atma. Atma is that Satyam. Everything else is Mithya. But when you say it is Mithya, now there are many people who use Mithya in a very casual way and replace it very quickly with some words like Atma and Anatma and things like that. And then say, "Arey, ye sab to Anatma hai karke." But what is to be understood is, behind that mithya, anatma, call it anatma, but that's a different context. I will explain it in another time. Stick to the definition here. Mithya can only be discerned as mithya when you see the underlying satta of it. Aap muffler ko, you cannot call muffler as false unless until you see the wool there. Isn't it? You don't see the wool, can you call this as false, as mithya? You will only say it's a woolen muffler. So wool becomes an attribute of the muffler. It's a woolen, it's an attribute, it's a quality of the muffler. But quality of the muffler is not the satta of the muffler. Means that quality can change. It's the color of the muffler will depend upon the color of the yarn. The quality of the yarn will make the quality of the muffler. So finally, when you say the whole thing, Vivek means now you realize I'm completing it now. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikari, who's got this inner qualification of a Shanta Antakaranam, which is objective, which is detached, which is extremely alert and bright. Without Ragadvesh Ahankar, जिसने अपने चित्त को अपना exercise किया हुआ है, let me put it this way, like when your body is exercised. I think very interesting. I slipped somewhere, supposing this is an example. Say I slipped somewhere. No, actually it really happened. Say I slipped somewhere and I fell. And when I fell, then suddenly obviously onlookers come to help. There are these two young girls, regular joggers, absolutely fit in their physical body. They came running, and to get up, you needed some support. I needed some support. Even the guards couldn't help me to get up. These two girls come, just lift me up like that, and there I am. And they are very young, energetic girls. Now, I just said, this is what you exercise. I said, see, your exercises really help. You know what they turned up and they said? They said, this is why we exercise. When your physical body is kept exercised, what happened? It was exercise that it would carry weights, they are healthy, they are fit, etc. They remain healthy, etc. Instantly it was used. What happens to our antakarnam, our minds? They don't get exercised. So we are filled with all kinds of thoughts that are not supposed to be there. So once the mind, the individual has taken some time in their life, aram say, to make the mind prepared. And then when they hear this Vedanta, Savanam, instantly the clarity starts to dawn without much effort. This whole thing is Mithya. What am I looking for over here? What am I depending here for? The whole world has dependence on me. It's too early, I know, to digest this statement. To digest this statement, one comes up to the point of Mandukya Upanishad, which is almost one of the last Upanishads. It's a huge statement to digest. So for now in Tattva Bodha, we are getting the concepts clear, the ideas clear, and of course along with it as much clarity and you can hold on to. That's the best. So with this, we are concluding the class today. And yes, can you see the screen? Akanksha, can you can chant, or you want me to read it first?
I can. Yeah. Om Sarvesham Swastirбhavatu Sarvesham Tirбhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Galam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Him Hisha Gobrahmanebhya Shushubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Shobharahitaha Brahmanas Santu Nirbhayaha.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Everyone, do you have a question before I end the session on Facebook?
Itiji, you were right that it is a little difficult to digest this entire thing, that that each of these cycles that we look at, nothing is independent of me. There, like you said, everything is, it is, I guess it'll come with time.
That not only just time, it needs more information also. So this is just the first layer of information. Shastra Vidya. That's why, as I started the classes introductory, the whole course material as such of a Vedanta studies, that entire Prasthanatrayam. Because in every one of them, they'll give you that little extra material to get more clear on. So we don't have much independent thinking over here in that sense. But what we have to put in the effort is to keep understanding what has been said as is and see it as much as that. What gets left behind, I can try and keep my mind on it and keep finding the answers for it. And some text or the other, somewhere, some point will come and it will just open up the whole thing. Otherwise, obviously, if it was going to be so easy, the test would be everybody would know it immediately. Everybody would know Atma Satyam, I am liberated. Moksha ho gaya. Moksha mein bhuyat kehna tha. Moksha ho gaya. Now here afterwards, nothing disturbs me, nobody disturbs me. But dhire, as my mind holds on to it, and I become, one with the idea, concept, to that an extent I become free. It's like dhire, it becomes, and then finally at the last step, it gets completely free. But it takes time. Doesn't matter. It's the constant hearing which makes it clear.
But this concept of Satya and Mithya, like you said, so, in our daily lives, if we have to apply it, we would think of other people as being Atma. I mean, of course, I'm sure you'll clarify this forward, but as a very initial understanding, just like I am Atma, other people are also Atma, but the relationships, the context that we are in is Mithya, because this is changeable.
Right.
So,
Right.
TG, one clarification.
And later on, of course, everything gets clarified. One reduces even the others are also. There are not two Atmas ultimately. There's only one Atma. So dhire, all those ideas get placed together. Hanji.
Deepti ji, one clarification. So when you talk about Atma, when you talk about Atma, Deepti ji, it is going to be our real nature, right? Like our real self, not the one that we have created, the name, the whatever the characteristics we have. It is the gold you're talking about and not the bangle, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Can we say Brahman is like a flame of fire and we can light as many candles and they can all. So then we have.
Again? What is?
So because we have, I'm saying we have multiple human beings in numbers, there are billions and billions of Atma we'll see. But then, so is it like, how you can light so many candles from a single flame? So
yeah, no, that is another school of thought entirely.
Okay.
That is a different school. That's not Advaita Vedanta. In Advaita Vedanta, what you see as many people is also actually reduced to only one. They get their existence from the same that I get my existence from.
Right.
There are not many Atmas.
Yeah.
So what gives me existence is giving existence to everything. Where we land up in a little confusion in our minds is when we say, my Atma is not giving them the existence. But then that is where the next chapter of Vedanta will start, which will say, but this Atma is Brahman. And that Brahman gives existence to everything. Atma and Brahman are not different things. But these are too many layers ahead, so let's not rush into it. Go step by step, because this book, I almost clinches it in the simplest manner that you will have in all the texts. So let's just follow it step by step. Don't rush few steps too much ahead, because then that can create a little bit of a out of the picture kind of a vision. Till the topic gets complete, the intellectual discipline should be to follow it. Yeah, and keep these questions aside, definitely there, because if they don't get completed at the end of the topic, then they must be brought up, because then that means something has got missed out in the information. Okay? Yeah, everyone? Yeah. So we'll see you next week.
Hari Om, Deepti ji.
Hari Om, Namaste everyone.
Thank you,
Take
Deepti ji.
care.
Namaste.
Stay fine, stay healthy.